It's one of the best times of the week, and it's when Steve Young joins KNBR to preview the upcoming game and also talk about the last game. But for this particular one, it's all Eagles talk. We're beyond the Seattle Seahawks game. 49ers dominated in that, and now we are looking ahead towards the game of the year against the Eagles. Take a listen to Steve Young on KNBR as he discusses and previews this matchup against the Eagles, a big one coming up on Sunday.
I always hate saying, because people are like, oh, do you think they're more focused for this game because it's a big game? And I'm like, I hate saying that, even though it might be true, but in football, less so, because you only get 17 of these things. You guys only had 16 of these things. I go to say they're more focused and more intense would be giving them.
I don't think that's the way to say it.
Yeah, because I'm cutting you short the rest of the games. I'm like, well, you're not all that intense the rest of the games.
But you don't want to, because what happens is there's more of an emotional focus, because everybody knows the whole league, and that's why Monday night always matters, because you know everyone that you play against or all the other athletes that you really respect, the coaches, they're watching. This is a game where the whole country's going to, everyone's watching what's happening with the 49ers and Eagles. And so there's going to emotional focus. It's like opening day or a playoff game. It's like this emotion that rises. And the problem is that the mental focus usually goes down when the emotional focus goes up. And so that's the challenge, and that's why the great teams can rise emotionally to the level that's okay. Don't overdo it. We played a lot of teams that would come out of the locker room, and like you'd see them warming up, and they're fighting, they were screaming at you, and they're like, "Oh, I'll fight you to death," and you're like, "Oh, this is awesome," because you are so you're overwrought, you're going to be a mess, and that's what happened. A lot of big games you could see, and they don't play well. People don't play well in big games because they get overly emotional. And so these are two teams that's not going to happen. So that's good. But the focus is really going to, I think both teams, they're both different teams. Like if we play out of the huddle really well this weekend, and as we have, and with Brock, the way that he really thrives coming out of the huddle, running the play, getting the most out of it, moving on, and that game stays with us, we'll win. You're not going to beat us at that game. But if things start to break down, it gets into a little bit more of a fist fight, and things get, kind of murky and challenging, like there's mistakes, and now we ask Brock to get out of the pocket and start to run around and try to make plays and throw it downfield and, maybe even come from behind. That's just things get much higher risk for us. And so that's why it's super important that we don't get over emotional, because we need to be in the moment, call the play, run the play, get the yards, move on, and then we win because we go 10 of 11, and the defense like, geez, they come from everywhere, and then all of a sudden, bam, the deep ball, the big post, and that's when you really get people. So out of the huddle, if things stay the course and we have a really kind of, unemotional game, we'll win that ball game all day long.
Talking to Steve Young, the Hall of Famer on the UMA guest line. We were talking about this earlier, Steve, the talent on both sides of the ball for both the Niners and the Eagles. If you went position by position or group by group, do you have an edge either way? Because it's fairly balanced, I think, across the board.
I think it is, but it's different. And again, Jalen is a guy that can be 5 of 15 for 75 yards. And with the receivers they have and the kind of the physical presence that he is, all of a sudden you'd be down 14 because he completed 3 balls. Like it can just turn on you. And Devontae's that way, AJ's that way. Like they can. No, I'm not saying they're better than us or worse than us. I'm just saying it's different because they deploy it differently. You saw in the first half last week, they were kind of just like whatever, and then all of a sudden it was time. And with Jalen, and that's where you've got to batten down the hatches in the later in the third and fourth quarter.
What is the key, since you were a mobile quarterback, and I say with Hurts now, like he is a running quarterback because they use him in the running game, but he's not a running quarterback because when I visualize a running quarterback, Steve, I'm thinking if I could just get this guy to pass, we will win. He's not that. He can beat you with his arm too. So it's one of those things that you did as well. What did you see in defenses that they tried to do to you, and what's the key And I think you guys are different level passers as well. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what do you do against a guy like that who's more than willing to beat you with his arm? But if you let him, he'll say, "Oh, you got give me 8 yards? I'll take those 8 yards. I'll take those 9. I'll take that 5. You give them to me too." I don't even know how do you stop that?
That's the game today. The game is more wide open. The guys that are going to dominate into the future are going to be the guys just like that. The sophisticated throwers who can run. People always say a running quarterback. That's a college definition. Someone who runs around and can throw the football. In the NFL, if you're going to play in championship football and dominate in today's game, you need to be a sophisticated thrower of the football. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I think Jalen Hurts is getting there, where Lamar needs to get to. And then you have all of that talent to go fill all of that space that's been created with the rule changes. That's how Super Bowls have been won in the last 3 years and the next 15 years, unless they change the rules again. It's going to be won by that talent, and that's why Justin Herbert, he can move around and do that. He just needs the help. Who else is around the league that Tua and Brock are more related?
Lamar,
and they can do it. Tua and Brock are more related because they are sophisticated throwers of the football, but the physical presence is different. And to go to fill that space up that's been created, they're not 6'5" and they can run like crazy and heave it for 50, 60 yards. I mean, not 50, but 70, 80 yards. They can just throw it all over the field. So they're going to do it differently. So what I'm saying is the prototype today is Jalen Hurts. That is who you want to draft. That's who you want to develop. That's who you want to be your quarterback for the next 15 years. Patrick Mahomes, well, if find 5 of those, that'd be great. But you know that it needs, your point is, develop a sophisticated passer who can fill the spaces up with their legs. That's when you don't have an answer. In many ways, the 49er defense, if they're doing it, if the Eagles are doing it well and Jalen is doing it both ways equally and well, there really isn't an answer other than physically just getting to them and knocking them down. That's what 4 guys bringing the heat and knocking them down is the way to do it. Otherwise, there really isn't there's not an answer unless he makes a mistake or causes it's just, that's the game today, and that's why those guys dominate. That's why Patrick Mahomes goes and wins. Think of our Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes. Think of Patrick, all of a sudden, end of the game, we need some big plays. He rolls out, throws it around, runs around, and now all of a sudden you lose. And that's who's going to win Super Bowls and championship games into the future.
On the other side of that, because the knock against, I think, the Niners in that scenario, or that people are using against them, as we go, because I think it makes the Eagles a great team, that they've had all these come from behind wins and found different ways to win. I look at them and I go, I sort of expect it to happen now at the end of games, whereas they'll say, well, the 49ers are winning big. Can they win a close game like that? And I think it's such a funny thing to discredit a team for winning by such a large margin, right? But I'm crediting a team for saying they're finding ways to win close games when they don't have their best. The Eagles, I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think that's where championship football, when I say the guys who win them are the guys that, because you figure that in the third and fourth quarter in championship football, it's going to be tight, or it's going to be close. And so who can now take that team and make those plays and get out and run for 25 and then throw it for 50 and then, spin out and stiff arm a defensive lineman, come out of the pile and rip one downfield like Josh Allen does all the time. That's, to me, the game today, and that's who's going to win Super Bowls. And so that's why, if the Eagles are, playing from behind and they need a couple of scores late in the fourth quarter, where if we need to do that, I've said this before, Brock's going to take more steps to do it, but if he's very efficient, like he always is, he can get there. Let Brock cook at what he does, and it can be fine. It's just not necessarily the prototype of what the game's demanding today. It takes a little bit more steps to get there because he can't stiff arm a defensive lineman and throw it 75 yards. It's not the game, but that's okay. I always said, let him cook and let him find his way. I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to figure it out.
What did you guys think of what Steve Young had to say about the upcoming Eagles? Let me know what you guys are thinking in the chat below. And do not forget, if you want to listen to the full interview or other interviews, throughout the day that KMBR has. They post them all to their podcast page on their website, which you can find in the description below. Go and see, because they have a lot of great guests daily. Let me know what you guys think about what Steve Young had to say on this particular one. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.